What is going on, guys? This is Versatile Gaming with my review of Kill la Kill episode 19, and whoa, that episode, it was actually pretty good. This episode, it was pretty freaking great actually, and I liked it a lot. So the episode, it starts off with covers, as we see that we have all these clothes now and they're filling up the sky. And we see that they're actually opening up, and they have these like threads coming out of them that when they attach to people, they like pull them in and absorb them. And we see that they're doing that with like multiple people, and we see that the Elite Four was not going to really stand for that. And we have Sanagayama here. He actually cut some of the threads of the people that they were trying to absorb. Now here was something, really caught me off guard, because we have Mako here, and one of the threads actually, pick her up, and we have Ira, kind of freaking out, but he does try to save her, and that right there shocked me. Now, I know people do put these characters, together a lot, and I feel like in this episode, it definitely kind of confirmed it, and that right there was definitely a nice surprise to me, because, I thought it was like some random pairing, but, this episode, it really confirmed that Ira has fallen for Mako, and I gotta say, I do like that, so I'm glad that, they actually, hinted at that, or they, just confirmed it right there, and that right there was just pretty freaking cool. But we have Ryoko, who actually couldn't believe that, that Ragged was her mother, and she even cuts her arm off, and we see that her heart, it actually does go back into her body, and the wound that was there, it closes, instantly. And so, this right here, it's like without shadow of a doubt, that Ragged really is her mother. And, like that right there, which is a nice twist in last episode, I'm glad that, I'm glad that we know that. And so we have Sasuke, who is no longer, in the wall, but she actually fell to the floor, and she had one more ace up her sleeve, and she pressed this button, and we just have all these explosions going on, and it's just like, what in the world? Because you would think that everybody in here would be dead, and we just see that the main ones that took the explosion, it was Ragyo, Nue, and Ryoko. And so afterwards, we actually get a little time skip, because now 1 month has passed, and we see that at covers, they have now taken over, and they were actually, scouting the city where the school is, and we have Mako's brother, because we all know that Mako is gone. So I believe his name is Mataro. Not sure if I'm saying that right or not, but we have Mataro and Guts, and they're all in the city scavenging for food, but they actually get caught by one of these suits. And so Mako's brother here actually throws a tomato at him, and that right there, has no effect, and the suit is actually about to attack him. But he actually gets saved by Nonon, who definitely surprised me in this new getup. So after they manage to escape, we see that Mataro, he was actually living in the sewers with like all these other kids. And then we go to Sanagayama, who was actually, looked pretty rough though, I'm not gonna lie. He actually he did look pretty banged up and tired. And we see that, he was trying to save the people who were being chased by covers, because they were all trying to get into this plane. And we see that he activates his uniform, but we see that it did not last for long. It's pretty worn out and actually breaks on him. But luckily, we have his old gang here, and they come to fight for him. And they have this idea to like let covers absorb them, and so that they can assure it from the inside. But it really doesn't work out, as we see that the suits, once they transform, they just spit out the weapons. But luckily, the people and Sanagayama, they were actually able to escape. And so now they were free. We have to go back to the Nudist beach base, which is in Osaka, and we see that the Elite Four had now joined up with them. And we get a little update here about, how it's mainly, Ira, Sanagayama, Nonon, Tsumagu, and Akiro, and how they're like mainly the defining force here. And we actually see that they actually took Sasuke's weapon and made it into 2 additional weapons. Like, I believe that Nonon has a knife, and I believe that Ira, at least in the beginning, he was like wielding a smaller blade. And of course, we have the tailor glove and the dagger as well, and not to mention Akiro DTR. I believe that's how he prefers to call it. But we see now that they have Ryoko in the infirmary, and she's been asleep all this time. But she does have these nightmares, as we saw at one point as well. But while that's going on, we have Mako's family looking over her, And of course we have Senketsu as well. He's like worrying about her, and even though they had no idea what he was saying, it's obvious now that they do know he's alive, especially Aikiro, because because Senseku actually took Ryoko and her sister sword to him. So it's obvious now that he's alive and he can't talk, even though they don't understand what he's saying. But we see when Aikiro comes, and Mako's brother as well, because now that he's back, the family is now kind of reunited. We have Ira here, who was actually pretty determined to fight these covers and save Mako, and that right there makes him a man, because he actually kept his word as well. But I'll get to that a little later on. We actually go to Sasuke, who's actually being held prisoner by her mother. And I was hoping that that they could have got her away as well, and she would possibly resting up like Ryoko, because she is clearly in a much worse state than her. So it would make sense that she was sleeping a lot longer. So that right there is what I'm kind of expecting. But of course, she's prisoner by her mother, and like always, her mother was feeling on her body. I don't know why Raki always does this, but clearly she's touching her daughter. But we see that they're working on something called Shinra Koketsu, and we actually learned that this right here is going to be the ultimate kamui that Nue and the Suing Club they're clearly being controlled by life fibers are working on, and they actually want Sasuke to not wear this, but they're actually planning for it to eat her. And Ragged was saying that her rage, the more angry that she feels, the more youthful she'll be. So clearly this right here is definitely not gonna be a good sign. But I cannot wait to see what this kamui is gonna look like when it's done. But we get this really strange flashback, and it's Ryoko and Sasuke's father. He's driving away in a car where they actually blow it up, and he fakes his own death. And we actually see that he gets this really extreme plastic surgery, and we see that he actually breaks his body to make him look like a much older man. And it was just so freaking strange, because who does that? But only in Kill La Kill we see logic like this. But it seems that after he faked his own death, he actually became this doctor, and that's when he funded Nudist Beach. So that right there was really surprising to see that he was not an old man, but he was definitely a lot younger. I definitely thought that Ryoko's adopted father Chief found her. I didn't know that it was gonna be her real father. That right there was also definitely a nice little twist there. But then we have covers, and they now found the Nudist Beast base, and we actually see that the scientist, I forgot his name, but he's the guy that was working close with Sasuke in the school, and he also the one that was that also made that chemical or whatever that had that froze the original life fiber, even though it didn't work for long. But we see that they made the suction cannon, and Ira is the one that's going to use it. So now the Elite Four kind of has their own weapons, because Ira gave Sanagayama that sword, because it's much better than a bamboo blade. So I am glad that he no longer using that wood, but he's now wielding some steel, because he definitely needs it. And so we see Guts here. He actually runs to one of the covers, and it's obvious that this right here bringing out some reaction, and Ira picks up on it right away. And when he uses this suction cannon, it actually brings out Mako, and of course she's naked, but at least now she's free. And now that they have this, they could definitely use it to free the others. And with Mako now there, Ira was looking away, blushing, because she is naked, but they actually do give her something to cover up with. And it was definitely cool to see Nudist Beach and the Elite Four standing together. That right there was definitely awesome. But then we have the Orchestra Club, who is definitely familiar with Nonon, and now that they're being controlled by covers, they actually produce this rather horrible sound, and this right here causes this explosion from Ryoko, who finally wakes up, and she takes out everybody in an instant, and of course she frees the people that was inside of them, And I was actually, rather surprised to see the way she was acting, once she was free. Because Senketsu, he was so happy. But Ryoko was like saying that she's done with him. Because at this point, she's basically, cursing her own fate here. Because she was saying that, she's a life fiber monster. And I mean, if you find out that you were like the child of Rakyo, I'm pretty sure you would react a similar way. So I really don't blame her, but I do think that she's going a little bit overboard with like not wearing Senketsu, because we have seen this once before when she had refused to put them on, and now she's back at this stage again. So I do wonder, how are her and Ryoko, how are her and Senketsu going to reconnect once more, because clearly, she had to put them on. She does seem like powerful right now, but then again, it's just regular cover members. So, like, let's say she goes up against Rakyo or Nue. I'm pretty sure that she cannot beat them without putting on Senketsu. So hopefully she like snaps out this foul move and come back to reality. But like I said before, this episode, it was pretty freaking good. But as always, please do not forget to like the video and subscribe, because it really helps me out. And you guys take it easy, and I will see you all next time.